welcome to today's show. I'm Jacqueline Stockwell, CEO and founder at Leadership Through Data. I inspire and motivate information leaders across the world.
Super excited to be in the studio with Kiki Patel. Now, Kiki, before I start grilling you on all my questions that I want to ask you, do you want to introduce yourself for me and tell me a bit about you?
Yeah, sure. Really glad to be here today. So I'm Kiki. I am co-founder and lead DPO at Ontago, which is a data protection as a service for startups and scale-ups. I have been in the data protection world for about 6 years now, completely by accident, but I have loved it ever since. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
A little bit about you, please, yeah?
Yeah. So I live in Hertfordshire. In my spare time, what do I do in my spare time? So I bake quite a lot, all sorts of different things. I go to the gym quite a lot, and I'm a massive foodie, so I like trying out new restaurants, new types of foods. I don't eat seafood though, I just can't deal with seafood.
Is it the smell or is it the texture?
It's just the texture. It's just the texture for me. And the smell, I guess the smell does put me off as well, but yeah, it's a texture thing.
It's so interesting. A couple of my team are the same. They don't like fishy fish. We said, what is a fishy fish? Just describe what a fishy fish is. It's
yeah,
quite.
I tried cod once, and I was like, nah, can't do it.
Can't do it. So I know you talked about cakes. So are you as good as I really like? I can't remember the name of the all you can eat is cake. What is it? Cake Off, the American on Netflix. I cannot remember the name right now.
I haven't watched that. So I'm not too sure. But I do watch. I'm a big fan of Bake Off. I don't know if you watch Bake Off.
Yeah, Bake Off. Is it cake? That's it. Just come to me there. Is it cake?
Yeah. I actually applied to be on Bake Off once, and then I chickened out. I was like, this is too much.
That was actually where I was going with my question to say, are you good enough to have gone for that? So how good is that? Oh no, you said so do that. Don't let anything hold you back.
I know. I saw the application process is quite extensive, and you have to I think you have to know how to make all different types of pastries by scratch, and I was like, I'm not cut out for this.
Talking about that, I'm just going to divert off here. I applied for the apprentice once when I was at university, and I got through a good few rounds, and I know exactly how intense that was. So when you look at the apprentice, what you see is what you actually get in the room. So it's a different kind of vibe. So it is interesting, isn't it? But worthwhile.
Yeah.
Right, let's talk about what we're actually here to talk about today. So can you tell me what inspired you to start your own company?
Yeah, I think I've worked in kind of like the large organizations, and then I went on to kind of work up with startups and scale-ups as a consultant. And I saw a gap specifically for those that were kind of processing that sensitive data and needed like continual support, weren't necessarily ready to hire in-house, but needed like a cost-effective solution that could scale as quickly as they did. And as you can imagine with startups and scale-ups, like they're scaling so quickly. So that's what inspired me to co-found a company.
I love that. And coming from my own company, I just think that's amazing. And it's quite a challenging job, isn't it? Sometimes running your own business, but you do get a lot of benefits from it as well.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a bit about imposter syndrome. So whether I'm interested to know if that stopped you doing the bake-off as well. I know you said the application process, but certainly in our industry, there's a lot of conversations about imposter syndrome. And I'm very much of the opinion that, it could be a thing, but actually it might not be a thing for you. But I look at it on the stairs. So you take a step and then someone's always going to be better than you on the step above. You train, you develop, and then you take another step, and then that person's done exactly the same. So there's always like a tier, so it's like an escalator. Obviously, this is something that you can probably relate to. Can you walk me through what it feels like in the field of data protection?
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think imposter syndrome is one of them things. It affects everyone, and sort of regardless of what profession you're in. But I think in the data protection world, I think there's always something you can learn, especially with all the regulations. And I think because I am someone who's so meticulous, to my own detriment sometimes, I need to be an expert in everything. So I think it's really important to enjoy what you do. Keeping up with the regulations can be quite draining sometimes, just reading, trying to dig through it all. But I also feel like half of being a sort of good DPO is bringing real value in how we think and asking the right questions and applying a judgment and translating complex things into something practical. So I guess with me, like knowing my customer's business inside out, keeping up to date with tech is an important part of it. But I think you're probably right. It did stop me from doing the bake-off. And I think that stairs thing is so relevant because there's always going to be someone that's done what you want to do or better than you. And it can get, I guess you can sort of end up in this cycle where you're thinking, oh, well, I'm not good enough. Do I know? Do I really know? I think with me, it's just about reading, keeping up to date, asking people around me as well, because I feel like in the data protection world, it can be quite lonely sometimes. Sometimes you are acting on your own, but it really helps to have a good network of people where you can be like, you know what, I don't really know if my approach is right here. What do you think? And I found that being part of a community is really helpful.
Yeah, 1,000%. And you said about reading and community, and those are buzzwords for me for professional development, right? You are actively reading to stay up to date. And when we do that, we feel more confident, right? So
Absolutely, yeah.
and you can have better conversations, so you can move up the stair ladder. So I
Yeah.
think like those, the constant professional development in managing imposter syndrome, and actually, like, if it gets to a point, there's therapy, there's people you should talk to, and always make sure, like, if I'm having, offset days, it's always you go to somebody and they can just give you that support network, so you can help, like, work through your feelings as to why you're feeling like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, when you speak to other people, you realise that it's not just you that's feeling like that.
Yeah, I think everybody feels like that.
I think so too.
We just have this thing that we just don't want to tell anybody because people think really bad of us, or we're not good enough at our jobs, and
exactly,
that is the whole thing about imposter syndrome, isn't it? We're not good enough for what we do. If only we could be a bit more open about it. So it's great to have that conversation with you today. Thank you. So you talked about data protection right at the start, to say a bit boring and a bit dry. How do you bring more human, relatable approaches to your work, to your clients, so they can understand? Because you work with clients who are small businesses and startups.
Yeah. So I think with me it's about simplifying things as much as you can, but also being tech savvy and entrepreneurial yourself, so you can speak the same language. So, for example, I'll sometimes ask founders to imagine that they are signing up for their own product. So, would you feel comfortable sort of handing over your health data or your bank details or, your child's information? Like, what would make you hesitate? What would give you confidence? And I think that's what makes it really personal. And I've kind of worked with startups who've made privacy part of their brand, and it becomes a competitive advantage, especially in the sort of health tech space. People want to work with them because they felt safe. So I always say compliance isn't sort of, you want to avoid the fines and things like that, but it's about showing your customers you respect them, and, the way that you've built your product is respecting them. Because it's like a cycle. I always say that when people trust you with their data, they're more likely to stay, which means, you can improve your product, because the more data you get, the more you can improve. And that cycle of growth will just continue. And I think once that trust is gone, or never surfaces, your product can only go so far.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful story. So well done there, because I think that's a really good demonstration. And just something to add on that is simplicity. Is talk a language that doesn't involve big words or technical or anything that we actually use in our everyday job. It's talk to somebody like they're a child, and you break it down into that really simplistic mindset. And I say that I was running some masterclasses for our Empower program, and what they thought was simple wasn't actually simple. So it's about explain that to a child.
And I think there's a balance between, like, not overwhelming someone, and it's a really difficult balance, because as data protection professionals, we like to use terms like controllers and processes, and someone might not actually know what that means. So it's about explaining it in a way that they understand, definitely.
Yeah, 1,000%. So you believe that leadership is all about mindset, not just experience. So what's one key piece of advice that you would want to give to a young professional who's stepping into a leadership role in our industry?
I think I would say, don't wait to feel ready. You're probably never going to get to a point where you think, yes, I have it all figured out now and I'm ready to lead and all of that kind of thing. And I think leadership is about showing up with curiosity, listening more than you speak, and also being willing to kind of make decisions even when you don't have all the answers. And a huge thing I think is being authentic. The best leaders I had were ones that you felt like you can go and have a coffee with, and being personable and fierce, but also, there is a balance. So I guess my advice would be, focus less on trying to look like a finished article and more on sort of cultivating that openness and empathy. And I think those qualities are key, and no matter kind of what industry you're in, I think they will always be key.
Yeah, agreed. Courage, empathy, and openness. I love that. There's a really good book around, it's called Dare to Lead.
Haven't read that one. I'll put that on my
Very
list.
good. I think I'll put it in the show notes. It's Brene Brown. She has a couple of others, and she talks about courage and empathy. So that's a very good leadership book. So for a startup founder listening to this, what's a common misperception that they have about data protection, and what's the first thing they should do to ensure they're building trust from the ground up?
There are a few common ones. A few ones that I've come across is like you need lawyers to write your privacy notice. You don't, or you need to spend a crazy amount of money. Another one is it's this one-time thing where you get a certificate and you're GDPR compliant, and it's just not that case at all. It's an ongoing practice, and I think regulations change, your product evolves, and the way you're using data will shift, especially for those fast-moving startups. So I think building privacy habits early, really simple things like mapping your data, knowing what you're collecting, why you're doing it, and putting, simple safeguards in place. Like make sure everyone's 2FA is turned on. That's what I drill into my clients from day one. Create a strong foundation. And then when you do bring in someone, you're not paying them to untangle chaos. You're paying them to strengthen what you've already built and maintain it. So start small, keep it practical, and grow your privacy practices alongside your business.
Beautiful. And MFA is multi-factor authentication, if anyone's listening and's not sure about that. Thank you very much. So I want to kind of talk about the challenges that you've had. So you've worked with both large organizations, from tech companies to where you are now. What's the differences that you've noticed in the challenges that they tackle from both companies? What's the differences?
Yeah. There's quite a difference, actually. I think the challenges can look quite different depending on the size of the company. So in the large enterprise tech companies, a lot of my work was about scale and coordination. So you might have a solid privacy framework already in place, but the challenge is getting hundreds or even thousands of employees to kind of actually follow them. And so there are more layers of decision makers, there are more diaries to align, and more stakeholders to sort of get that buy-in from. So moving the needle can sometimes feel quite slow, even if everyone does agree it's important. It's like steering a really big ship. You'll get there, but it will just take some time. And I think on the other hand, with startups and scale-ups, it's almost the opposite. So you don't usually have those really established processes yet. The challenge is around speed. Founders are moving fast, they're doing things, shipping features daily, they're raising investment, and our job is to kind of move as quickly and make sure privacy kind of opens doors, like trust, and rather than slowing them down. But the flip side is that everyone is pretty much all hands on deck, and so there's less friction, fewer hoops to jump through, and when you introduce something, it tends to get rolled out quite quickly, and I think that can make a really big difference in sort of embedding privacy early on. So I would say there's a common thread though, and I always bang on about this, and it's trust. So whether you're big or you're small, customers are always looking for the same thing, and that's confidence that you can handle their data responsibly.
Amazing. So a couple of years ago, you attended the Leadership Through Data Subject Access Request course, which I love. What's one of the specific skills that you had from that experience that you're still using today?
Yeah, I learned a lot from that, actually. And I think the thing I still carry with me is how to balance being thorough with clear. So I think subject access requests can be really messy. You are digging through multiple systems, trying not to miss anything, but also making sure that you don't accidentally disclose someone else's data. And what it taught me is to slow down, be sort of methodical, and translate that all back into something that the individual can actually understand. Because for a data subject, which is the person requesting the data, all they care about is what you hold on them and why. So I use that all the time, and whether I'm sort of mapping data flows or drafting a privacy notice, I'm always thinking, how can I make this simple for the receiving party to understand? Another thing I actually learned is the soft skills of being of dealing with subject access requests, and they spoke about this in just the conference that went from the ICO. I think soft skills are so underrated for a DPO. And they kind of found in some communications, depending on how you communicated and the words that you used, that was received. It can depend how it's received from the other party. So I think soft skills of a DPO is really, really important as well.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's a real missing skills gap and for soft skills here as an information leader. So I call everyone information leader. So anyone that manages information is information leader. And that's a huge thing that we're seeing. Why we've got the Empower program, but no plug here. So given all you've learned and experienced, what's one thing you wish you knew when you first started, what you wish you knew when you first started in data protection?
It's impossible to know everything. And that's okay. I think it's easy to put a lot of pressure on yourself to have every regulation, every case study, every guidance nailed down. But the skill isn't kind of memorizing the law. It's like taking an exam. You can memorize a textbook and take the exam. That doesn't make you skilled in what you do. It's knowing how to approach a problem, asking the right questions, and just translating complex things into something, whoever you're working with can actually understand. So I actually wish I'd realized earlier the confidence. I think you've touched on this. Confidence doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from sort of like trusting your ability to find the right answers and from building strong relationships, so people know that they can rely on you.
Yeah, 100%. And confidence comes from doing something over and over again. The more you do it, the better you come, because you learn from what you did the first time that you improve the second time. So and that definitely comes with training and education. So I think that's great. Thank you. So where can people go to learn more about you and what you're doing at Ontago?
So Kiki Patel on LinkedIn, connect with me, and the website is ontago.com.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. Is there anything else you want to share with the listeners before we wrap up today?
No.
Well, when you're in the British Bake Off, I'm definitely going to be watching. And I would love to
It won't happen.
I would love to eat some of those cinnamon swirls that you said you made earlier. So
I'll send you some. I'll send you some in the post.
Oh, amazing. It's been absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for your time and joining us today.
Thank you for listening to the Journals of the Information Entrepreneur with me, Jacqueline Stockwell. I hope you found this episode inspiring and helpful and have some takeaway tips that can be useful to you. If you liked this episode, please like, review and share it with your friends. Your support helps us reach more information leaders to stay inspired and listen to great content. Want to test out your strengths and weaknesses and measure it against our Empower framework? Please complete the scorecard. It's a great way to improve and evaluate your skills. You can find the scorecard at the end of the description of this podcast. Stay tuned for a new podcast every Thursday, and remember to be bold, be brave and be beautiful.